might think you know what the best Pokemon game is, but do you really? Welcome back, everyone. We are here today to talk about what some are calling the best Pokemon game ever, and we're going to examine just what that means and what exactly we're talking about when we say the best. But before we get into that, I want to ask you, what is your favorite Pokemon game? Because there are so many Pokemon games out there to love. And I know for many of us, it is a personal preference and experience. So I would love to hear what you love down in the comments below and for us to just all discuss some of our faves. When it comes to the game that I'm talking about in this video, though, that would be Pokemon Pokopia, which currently is the highest rated Pokemon game of all time. Now, that is according to Metacritic, which has it at an 89 score, the highest that a Pokemon game has scored on Metacritic. And you could also look at OpenCritic for more evidence of this, where Pokemon Pokopia sits at a 90 top critic score and an 100 player score. Whoa. Now, granted, Pokemon Pokopia is not a mainline game. It is what we would affectionately call in the Pokemon world a spin-off. But the thing about Pokemon spin-offs that I really love and that I do love with Pokemon Pokopia is that I think there's a lot more room for games to be creative when we do spin-off games. It's why I have loved so many other spin-offs in the past, because they're doing things that we just don't usually get to see in mainline titles, where it feels like we're a little bit tied to a box, to some kind of limited idea of what a Pokemon game can be. When it comes to Pokemon Pokopia, I feel like Pokemon was preparing for this launch to be massive. They were offering little physical Ditto plushies with pre-orders of the physical Pokopia game. They also actually seem to have taken feedback from players. I know, a wild thought. What if we listen to the people that love Pokemon? Taking feedback even from players who played their competitor, Pal World, which Nintendo did try to destroy. And also, players' love of cozy games, just crafting games in general, like Stardew Valley, or also a Nintendo game, Animal Crossing New Horizons, or any of the Animal Crossings that have come before. I mean, cozy crafting games are nothing new, but we have been loving them for a long time. And I think once Pal World saw success, Nintendo took note of that. Pokemon took note of that, and they actually made a game that people, they thought, would like. And they were so confident in that, they didn't just hype up this game release, but they also even set up their first event for 5 days after the game's release. That's right, y'all. Our first Pokemon Pokopia event is going on currently at the time of this recording. It started on March 10th and it's going to March 25th, and it is known as More Spores for Hoppip. You don't do an event that close to a game's launch unless you feel confident that people are going to be playing it. And in Pokemon's case, they were correct. After all, this game is not just supported as being one of the best Pokemon games ever based on the scores, but also based on the sales. They have already sold 2.2 million copies at the time of recording. As far as I can see, there may even be more copies, honestly, at this point sold. 1 million of those were sold in Japan alone. And Nintendo's stock price also increased by a 10% value based on the success of Pokopia, according to Bloomberg. So the money, it's coming in and it is supporting this belief that Pokemon Pokopia is doing something totally different and just breaking people's minds, shattering records. There is a lot to love about Pokemon Pokopia. However, we also need to talk about something else when it comes to this game, because while 2.2 million is a lot of copies, period, you might be thinking, compared to some other recent releases we've had, such as Resident Evil Requiem, which I believe sold around 5 million copies, 2.2 million, it's not that much. But we need to talk about the big elephant in the room when it comes to that, and that is, of course, accessibility. Pokemon Pokopia being a Switch 2 release means that I feel like it is limited in terms of the potential in sales that it can actually achieve, because you have to have a Switch 2 in order to be able to play this game. And with hardware costs rising, the reality is not as many people may even own a Switch 2 that would like to own a Switch 2, because we are all being forced as gamers to really pick and choose these days based on which console we want to get. Or do we want to get a PC upgrade? Do you want to be a PC gamer, or do you want to be a console gamer? Whereas people used to, and some still do, but a lot more people used to buy multiple platforms for gaming, splitting their time between different consoles even. And that is just not the reality right now with how the economy is and how many people have been struggling. And while Switch 2 has been extremely successful in terms of its sales, so I'm not saying that it didn't sell well and therefore there's no one really around to play Pokopia, we do need to acknowledge that when this console was first announced and first revealed to everyone, and when the price tag was revealed, people were not exactly super jazzed about it. They felt that based on the features and the price tag, that Switch 2 seemed to be maybe a bit lacking. Granted, then the console launched and they sold a bunch of copies of it. But I just mean that was a factor, and I think still is a factor, holding back some people from getting a Switch 2. In addition to the fact of they may just not have the money to do that. Some have even joked that Pokopia isn't really an $80 game. It is in fact a more like $600 game, because you have to get a Switch 2 in order to play Pokopia. And this being Pokemon and this being Nintendo, Pokopia is of course a Nintendo exclusive indefinitely. I doubt it will ever go anywhere else, because Nintendo is very passionate about their exclusives, which means that how many copies that they can sell is kind of limited. Granted, there have been 17 million Switch 2s sold to date, and so when you consider that we have 2.2 million copies of Pokopia sold, that means that about 1 in 8 of every Switch 2 owner has a copy of Pokopia, and that is just to start, because they sold that 2.2 million in the first weekend following the game's release. And it's likely that that number is only going to increase as time goes on, because as we've seen on social media, everybody has been talking about this game, and for the most part, all of the posts I've been seeing have been quite positive, with people sharing fun experiences they've had in game and mainly positively hyping that gameplay experience. Pokemon Pokopia has also beat even recent Nintendo Switch 2 releases, such as Metroid Prime 4 Beyond and Kirby Air Riders, which both sold under 2 million copies. And it even is competing with the mainline Pokemon release that happened recently last year, Pokemon Legends Z to A, which released for Nintendo Switch and Switch 2, and currently has sold 3.89 million. But of course, we do need to keep in mind that that game released last year and for 2 consoles, whereas Pokopia is only released for 1, and it only released at the beginning of March. And it's not only that I think it has the potential to be one of the best-selling Pokemon spin-offs. I mean, Pokopia is in the running to be one of the best-selling Switch 2 titles so far. Currently, it is being beaten by, like I said, Z to A, which you do need to consider the sales for that are combined from Switch 2 and the original Switch console. And then, of course, Donkey Kong Bonanza. No surprise there, that game is amazing. And then, of course, Mario Kart World, which I think is at around 14 million sold, but it's also important for us to keep in mind with the Mario Kart World sales that that was a game that was included in the bundle for a lot of people that were buying Switch 2s. I know for me personally, it came with my Switch 2, which granted, it's not like I was forced to buy more Mario Kart World or that I was forced to play it. I was very excited, and that was just icing on the cake for me. So I'm sure there's a lot of people that love Mario Kart World like myself. So not to take anything away from those games, but I'm just saying 2.2 million at the beginning of the start of this game is crazy. And granted, we do need to keep in mind that even when it comes to the reviews of this game, which clearly support how much it's been selling and vice versa, the sales are supporting how much people love the game, that the reviews and the way that we review video games has changed over time. Like back in the 90s when we had Pokemon games, reviews were different. They were in gaming magazines and you had, movie reviews in newspapers. And now with the internet, anyone that has access to the internet and has access to some form of a keyboard could technically be writing a review. There are tons and tons of gaming sites, and who's to tell from which are the good gaming sites and which are the ones that are less reputable or perhaps even completely AI generated. However, with so many people talking about how amazing this game is, I don't think that even reviews changing takes too much away from the positivity that we're seeing in regards to this game. I mean, there's also a lot of games out there that just get review bombed, and that doesn't really actually speak to the merit of the game on the other side of it. So I think it's important for us to keep in mind that a lot of this love, I feel, is probably pretty genuine. I know I can at least speak from my own experience as someone that has played Pokopia at this point, that for me, an 89 or a 90 feels right for the gaming experience. It's really fun. It is one of those games that you just simply cannot put down. Every time I do something, I just want to do one more thing before I put the game down. I've also been playing Pokopia on stream, which I do here on my main channel on YouTube, over on the live tab, and over on Twitch at twitch.tv/vampx13. So if you ever want to catch me on stream, check it out. I might be live right now. I usually stream about 5 days a week, so odds are good you can catch me here. And while I have been loving Pokopia, what I also would love to know is, what are your thoughts on this game? How well it's performing? What do you think that says for the future of Pokemon? What do you think that says for the future of gaming in general, that a cozy crafting sim like this could be doing so well? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let me know your thoughts on this game if you've been playing as well. I cannot wait to discuss with you. I'll see you all in the next video, and until next time, friends, as always, stay nerdy. Bye! And if you'd like to hear my thoughts on some other video games, sometimes I do video game reviews as well on this channel, and you can check more of that out over here.